your heart. I'd light the fire in the dark. When you sound the alarm, we'll find each other's arms. For your love, all you are. I'd start a riot. I'd start a riot.
Seneca said, "I judge you unfortunate because you have not lived through misfortune. You've passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you're capable of, not even you." Welcome back to Morning Coffee. I am Rick Alexander. Of course, anyone that knows my body of work and knows my philosophy knows that I often tell you that you do not have the right to judge yourself because you don't know what you're capable of. Because potential is a limitless well. See, as you get better at any one thing, how good you can become at that thing is actually increased. And so for that reason, potential is literally limitless. And so for you to judge yourself or your own actions in regards to your potential would be inaccurate. You really can't. But here's the thing. When we talk about potential, we're really talking about like possible outcomes. And we're talking about our growth into those possible outcomes. And growth requires an adversary. And so when Seneca mentions that it's unfortunate that someone would never have lived through misfortune, what he's saying is it's unfortunate that you don't have a worthy adversary that is actually worthy of you sharpening your own potential against. And that's what we are all looking for in this life. See, we make the mistake of looking for happiness a lot of times, or looking for what we think that we want even. Because a lot of times what we think that we want in the immediate turns into something that is going to be gratifying in the immediate. But what we really want is an adversary worthy of our skills, worthy of testing ourselves against. And I don't know what that looks like for you. It might look like a PhD program. It might look like writing a book. It might look like being able to get all the way up to your 5th story apartment without taking the elevator. Everybody has their relative level of what they're after in this life. And so your catalyst for potential is also relative. But the thing that's not up for negotiation is the fact that you need an adversary to measure the courage of your soul up against. You have to have that. You don't get an option. And if you don't have that, that's when you're going to tend to feel like your life doesn't have a lot of meaning, doesn't have a lot of purpose. You might not see the point in it. That all happens when we don't have something worthy of testing our mettle against. And because what happens sometimes is we take on challenges, but they're too quick, right? And then we kind of like look around and we're like, what's next? Because there's a lot of things you could do. There's a lot of things that you could take on. But the thing to ask yourself is, what should you do? What should you take on? Could you be a good lawyer? Yeah. Could you be a good accountant? Yeah. Chances are that you're pretty smart and you're pretty capable of accomplishing a whole bunch of things. But this life isn't about making a purpose for ourselves. It's about finding our purpose. And to find our purpose, we have to find an adversary worthy of testing ourselves against, because that is how we continue to improve and grow into possible outcomes for the future. Sometimes we don't have a choice and we're just thrust into misfortune, right? And most of the time, a lot of times it is. But, it's something I got from listening to Joe Rogan talk on Aubrey Marcus's podcast. And it's not a new idea, but it's this idea that he'll go after as much hard work as he can, because he finds that when he does, the rest of his life is a little simpler. It's a little easier to deal with. The way that Joe DeSena, founder of the Spartan Race, talks about it is reframing your reference point for what difficult is. Like one of the examples that he gives, and I paraphrased it in my book, is that, if think about the average American response to somebody riding their bike on the road, like how many people get bent out of shape because they have to drive 3 feet around somebody that's running or riding their bike on the road? Quite a few, which is a totally unacceptable human response to moving your hands 3 feet to the left on the steering wheel and then 3 feet back to the right. But the problem is our lives are so void of misfortune. They become so easy that they actually become difficult in the process of that. Because we don't have a good reference point for pain. We don't have a good reference point for struggle. And so then everything that's easy becomes a struggle. His argument was, if you were to do 300 burpees in the morning, you would be far less likely to be pissed about going around somebody who's simply jogging on the road. And I think that's true. I think that's true in many different things. I noticed in my own life running ultra marathons, one of the things I loved about them is on Monday, I'd be limping, I'd be sore, I'd be whatever. But I certainly didn't care if Bob from accounting or whoever the fuck was jamming up the fax machine or using the copy machine or or if I was being asked to do something I didn't want to do, it's like I had reframed my reference point for suck, and because of that, everything else became much easier. So when you're looking for your own life and you're thinking about, well, what do I want to do with my life? Like, what do I want to do next? What do I want to pivot to? You need to find a worthy adversary. You need to find something that's going to test your mettle, and it's going to do it over and over and over, and it's going to keep your attention, because that's the way that you grow and expand into possibilities for the future. You got to have something. As Seneca said, you have to have an opponent. It doesn't have to be a person. It doesn't have to be a country. Your opponent could be a craft. It could be a skill. It might take many opponents until you figure out the one that's really worth your time and worth your fight and worth your effort. That's how we put purpose behind our pain, and we get contentment in the process of measuring ourselves against our opponents. So engage in a worthy struggle, and then come to understand that all the little shit in your life that you think bothers you doesn't bother you nearly as much as you thought that it would. You got to reframe your reference point in order to gain more potential. And then maybe you'll have a semblance of an idea of what you're actually capable of. That'll never happen without an opponent, without an adversary, without a worthy struggle. Love you guys. Talk to you later on Morning Coffee.
First off, say peace to Pine Ridge. Shame at all the damage that the white man wine did. Ghost dance, Trail of Tears, 5 million beers a year, and all that other crime did. More pieces to the teachers of blind kids, to red bells and small cells, keeping their mind big. Say everything's hostile, suicide bombers and prosperity gospels, emaciated models with cocaine and blood pouring out their nostrils. They got to, just to stay awake on the catwalk of life where everybody watch you. Straight hair, high heels, and a handbag. Crucifixes, racism, and a land grab. Katrina, FEMA trailers, human body sandbags. A peace sign and a pants sag. A money toss calls a 9-stripper mad dash. A friend request following a hashtag. Now everybody want it like the last laugh. A Michael Jackson jacket or a Daft mask. Purple Jordans or the mixed girl in your math class. Stable is when the bath had Baghdad, but corporate jets really had to have that gas band. War, and they hope they all fall from the rat-a-tat, cause that's just more dinosaur for the Cadillacs. Live from the other side, what you see, a bunch of nonsense on my TV. Heaven on earth is what I need when I feel I'm in hell every time I breathe. One live from the other side, what you hear, a bunch of nonsense all in my ear. Rich man, poor man, we all gotta pay. It's freedom ain't free, especially round my way. Marvel at the state of art of man, and turn around and treat Ghana like a garbage can. America's a big motherfucking garbage man. If you ain't know, you part and parcel of the proper land. You say no you ain't, and I say yes you is. Soon as you find out what planned obsolescence is, you say no they didn't, and I say yes they did. The definition of unnecessariness. Manifest it, say that we should protest just to get arrested. That goes against all my hustling ethics. A bunch of jail niggas say it's highly ineffective. Depart from Martin, connect on Malcolm X tip. Insert ball when it's similar to separate. To me, the truth is more fulfilling than a method of finding really fast internet to have some sex with. It's all one song short of a set list. Couple croissants shy of a continental breakfast. Or blowing out your birthday candles just to make a death wish. So absurd, word to Chief Bone Necklace. Down at the Lakota Sioux Casino, a whole culture boiled down to giving you Pekino. I go as left as a heart in the chest, cause the Horn of Africa is now starving to death. Live from the other side, what you see, a bunch of nonsense on my TV. Heaven on earth is what I need, but I feel I'm in hell every time I breathe. One live from the other side, what you hear, a bunch of nonsense all in my ear. Rich man, poor man, we all gotta pay. It's freedom ain't free, especially round my way. In all white Los Angeles, the dream of Mr. Chandler. Hope and pray they take Columbus Day up off the calendar. South Central, an example of God's gift. So shout to all the mothers raising babies in Spot 6. The projects of Oakland City, Detroit, ghost towns. Monopolies on poverty where D-boy coke bound. It's parts of Manila like the video for Thriller, but the U.S. Embassy is reminiscent of a villa. If poverty is chocolate and privilege vanilla, then what's the flavor of the Sunday preacher's pedophilia? Cash rules everything around these niggas. There's classrooms everywhere around me with her. Hither you can be Mr. Burns and Mr. Smithers, the tyrant or the slave, but nowhere in the middle of the extremes of America's dream. Freud fighting Neo, Freddy Cougar refereeing now. Live on the other side, what you see, a bunch of nonsense on